Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. So I'm going to share with you this other message that I received on Facebook. The message reads like this: hello, can you please post for me as anonymous? I want to tell you my own short story about how I got married to a ritualist. My ex-husband is a ritualist. What happened is that when I was still in university, that is when I met my husband, who was my boyfriend at that time. Me and him, we attended the same church. So when he proposed me, then I approached the pastor about the whole thing. Then he gave me advice that you don't have to look at his current situation because you don't know what God has in store for him in the future. That is how me and my ex-husband, we fell in love. When our relationship started, I was so embarrassed. I didn't want anyone to know about this relationship. Even my friends, I made sure that I kept this relationship as a secret because I didn't want them to know that I was dating this guy who was only selling fresh water in town. Eventually, my mom then found out about the relationship, but she was not angry at all. She actually sat me down and told me that it was a good thing that I had chosen this guy who had nothing. We were going to start a foundation together. That is how me and my ex-husband fell in love and then got married. When we got married, we had nothing. Actually, it was my mother who gave us a blanket because my ex-husband had nothing in his house. Before I got married to him, things had gotten so worse back at home because the person who was my donor, who was paying my university fees, he approached me and proposed to me that I should be his girlfriend, and I told him that I cannot do that because he was also old and he was married and I had a boyfriend. So what this man will do is that he will go and drop me at the university campus, and when I have finished my classes, I'll find him parked outside and he'll say that get into the car, there's something that I want to tell you about your fees. Then he will tell me how much he loves me, and if I refuse, he'll tell me that I have to remember that he's the one that is paying for my fees. So there was this other semester that he didn't pay. When I asked him, he simply told me that he wasn't going to pay for my fees anymore because I had refused to date him. When I told my boyfriend, he then told me that I should come and stay with him. I didn't even ask my mom for permission. I just took my bag and I left. From day one, when I moved in with my boyfriend, he always complained. He never stopped complaining. It irritated me because I kept on telling him that now I was his wife. There was nowhere that I was going to go. He was not supposed to look at his situation and my beauty because he kept on complaining that with this my poorness, you're going to walk away from me. Me and my husband, we struggled a lot, and the worst part of it is that sometimes if I will be walking with him, a car will stop and the man will roll down his window and tell me how much he wanted to give me a better life. I could see that this was giving him so much pain. There were many times when we were walking, I would try to hold his hand, but this would make the situation worse because people will be looking at us like, here is this very beautiful woman walking with this very poor man and they're holding hands. So you'll be like, you are embarrassing me. Then there was this other time he went out as usual to go out and sell, but sometimes he will come back home to eat. But on that day, he did not come back. I waited for him, but he did not even come back. I tried to reach him on his phone, but he didn't answer. After 2 days, I thought maybe something bad had happened to him, so I sold our TV. Then I got the money for a taxi to go to his village. When I arrived there, they told me that the last time that he came home was soon after we had gotten married. He wanted to inform them that he now had a wife and he had never been back home ever since. So now I had no money to travel back to the city. I had to stay with his parents in the village. Life was very tough. I stayed with his parents, I think, for something like 6 months. Then he came to the village to collect me. I was so angry with him. I asked him, where were you? Why didn't you even bother to call your parents so that you can let them know that you're still alive? For me, it doesn't matter. Maybe you never loved me. But he apologized and he told me that he had found a job out of state and he had tried to call me. At that time, I had actually sold my phone because back at his parents' house, there was a time whereby there was no food in the house, so I had to sell my phone. But he was supposed to call me on his parents' phone, but he never even bothered. We then left the village and went back to the city. Upon our arrival, I then found out that he was renting out a 3-bedroomed house, but it was in a high-density area. He then took me to his shop and he showed me around, and he told me that he had saved the money to start up this shop. So what he'll do is that he was buying used iPhones online, some of them from Dubai and England, and he was selling them. Even though his shop was quite small and with a few iPhones on display, but my husband had money on him, always a lot of money, US dollars. So in the house, even if you say you just want to lift the bed, there will be money underneath the couch, there will be money in his pockets, there will be money. Then I told him that since we have a lot of money in the house, I think it is high time that we find an accommodation in an environment that will be safe. Then we found an accommodation in the suburbs. We're renting out a full house. For me, it was an exciting time, but the only boring part about it is that I didn't have a child. So my husband, he would go out maybe for 2 or 3 weeks saying that he would be going to buy his stock for his shop. Staying alone in a full house was never easy. I was always afraid. I even asked him, should I go back to the village and collect your sister so that I can stay with her, at least someone to keep me company? But he refused. The most scary about it is that at night it was as if someone was throwing rocks on top of the roof. Sometimes I would hear footsteps as if there was someone who would be walking outside at night. When he came back, I would tell him that there is someone who throws rocks on top of the roof when you are not here. I was afraid that maybe other boys in the area had realized that my husband is not always at home, so maybe someone was going to try and abuse me or do bad things to me. But my husband was not even concerned about the issue. He actually pretended as if it was me who was imagining things that were not there. Then there was this other night he was at home. Whilst we were sleeping at night, I woke up and I saw that the door to our bedroom was being closed and there was a man who was walking out of our bedroom. So I woke up my husband and I said that, can you see that there was someone who was in our bedroom? Did you lock the door before we slept? And he said, yes, I locked the door. And I said, look, the door is opened. At first he said that I had locked the door. Then suddenly he changed and he said that I received a call, so I didn't want to wake you whilst I was talking on the phone. So I went into the living room. I think when I came back to bed, I forgot to lock the door. Then as he was speaking, suddenly on top of the house, it was as if someone was walking, like they were running on top of the house. Then he just said maybe there are birds that are fighting on top of the roof, but there is no bird that can make a loud sound like that. He tried to sleep, but the sound was just too much. So he went outside, but immediately when he went outside, the sound just stopped and he came back. When he came back, he said, there were birds. There were a couple of birds on top of the roof. Then we slept. This noise kept on happening. Now, even if when he was there or when he was not there, the noise kept on happening. I think we changed accommodation about 2 times until we found accommodation on this double-story house, and he expected me to stay in that house alone when he was not there. I told him that I cannot continue to live alone. At least you have to find someone so that I can have company when you are not here. After so many days me fighting with him, he just went out. I didn't know where he had gone. When he came back, then I saw that he was with his sister and they had bags. So I was supposed to stay with his sister since he himself, he was not at home all the times. His sister was someone who loved watching TV so much. Sometimes he would watch movies from morning up until evening. I would just leave here sitting just watching TV. There was this other particular night I had left her watching TV and I went to bed. Then I heard her scream. I ran downstairs and I found her that she was screaming, looking at the stairs. I asked her what is going on, and she said that I just saw someone sitting on those stairs. When I saw that person just disappeared, but that person was crying, just sitting there on the stairs. She was shaking. So I told her that I think it is these horror movies that you are watching. You should stop watching these movies. Then I went back to bed. Immediately when I went to bed, I heard footsteps outside. It was as if someone was running around our house. So I ran out of the bedroom. I wanted to go downstairs because I was so afraid. Going downstairs, that's when I met my sister-in-law. She was also running towards me. She asked me, "Do you hear what I am hearing?" And I told her yes. We ran back to my bedroom together. Then we locked the door. We tried to call my husband, but his call, like always, it was unreachable. I then called my mother. When I told her all the signs and wonders that were happening at this house, she came with her pastor. We tried to pray, but as we were praying, the footsteps got louder and louder. Then my husband called me and he said, "Why do you invite people at my house when I'm not there? Why have you allowed men to enter into my house? Are you cheating on me?" I asked him, "How can I cheat on you? Your sister is here. My mother is here. This man is a pastor. How could I ever cheat on him when his sister was there?" The only reason why I had called this pastor into this house, it was because of these strange movements, but he sounded so angry on the phone, so I had put him on loudspeaker. When my mother heard all the words that he was saying, my mother just said, "You know what, my child, take your bag, we are going to leave this house today." His sister then also said that there was no way that we were going to leave here alone. We also went with her. The next day she asked for money, then she went back to the village. That is how me and my ex-husband got divorced. I left that marriage with nothing. He tried to speak with me to come back home, but I told him, "I am not going to be your sacrifice," and he stopped calling me. After my divorce with my ex-husband, I met another man. If I tell you that I only slept with this man only once, then I fell pregnant. Now I wonder, if I had stayed in that marriage, what was going to happen to me? Now he's married to a very young woman. Many years later, he still doesn't have any child, but he's very rich. Dear listeners, that was a story from our sister right there. Strange things do happen in this world. Let's meet again in the following episodes.